All right, coming in 10th place at the Summer Classic, we have Nadu. For those of you, unaware of what Nadu does, very resilient, but basically we're trying to use enablers like Lightning Greaves, like Shuko, to use these free targets to trigger Nadu. So whenever this creature becomes a target of a spell or ability, reveal it, top card of your library. If it's a land card, put it into the battlefield, otherwise put it into your hand. This ability only triggers twice each turn. So, and it's creatures you control. That's the key word here. So all your creatures, all 27 in this list, have that ability. So our enablers, untap target artifact or creature, untap target creature, are going to trigger. And then we want landfall, so we're going to generate mana using Lotus Cobra, landfall abilities. Scoot Swarm, huge window as far as winning here. Because, whenever land ETBs, we create a 1/1 green insect. Well, if we got 6 or more, we're creating a copy of Scoot Swarm instead. What happens is, if we can continue this chain of targeting our own creatures and then putting lands into play and having the landfall trigger and copying Scoot Swarm, it's going to exponentially make token. Therefore, 1 goes to 2, 2 goes to 4, 4 goes to 16. So once you're able to continue that cycle and target Scoot Swarm, having the landfall ETB, there's a good chance that you're going to be able to, for the most part, draw your entire deck, stop when you want to, because with Lightning Greaves, you're just equipping the creature, but you're also targeting. So you can stop until we hit a Finale of Devastation. By that point, we should have enough mana that we can just tap all our lands. All of our Scoot Swarms are not 1/1s. They are very large, and they are all attacking. Matter of fact, all of our creatures are attacking. Doesn't matter that Doosan's only a 2/2. He's really big because of Finale of Devastation, and that's how we're going to win. A bunch of protection spells in here, bunch of counter magic. I went over this a little bit. Shuko, Paradise Mantle, Amphibious Downpour, I still think is very underrated. A lot of people are going to get more or less surprised by this card. 30 lands, I think this one is a little on the light side. I think 31 would if we added one more land. 9th place at the Summer Classic, we have Rograkh. Rograk's main goal is turbo, win as fast as possible. We don't really care about, for the most part, what other people are doing, because we want to win as fast as possible. Typical, Rograkh list cards, you're going to see Thassa, Oakrich Bowmaster, Simian Spirit Guide, Bergie. Bergie's just good because we cast a spell, we get an extra mana. Some other cards you're going to see in here, typical Rograkh list. Probe is just to look at another player's hand, draw a card, information purpose. Here's a lot of stuff what we're going to be doing at instant speed and, Calling the Weak, sacrificing a Rograkh, Dark Ritual, Born Upon a Wind, Thoracle Line. Anyway, Final Fortune, just for setting up as far as we have to win, but we don't have all the resources yet, so we're going to win on the next turn. We're going to take another turn. Flare of Duplication comes out. Card is very good, especially in Rograkh, where we can just sacrifice Rograkh, and it's a free copy. So you want to copy a spell? All right, I'm going to sacrifice Rograkh. I'm going to copy it. Very good. Typical utility artifacts. Almost all of the 0-mana artifacts. Almost all. And, other stuff that you're going to see, One Ring, Necrodominance is just another Necropotence. That's what it is. And so that's basically why it's in here, is it's a second copy of Necropotence. Breach, because Breach lines, 24 lands. It's not a lot. And that's I would say the biggest crutch of this deck is because we're not running a lot of lands and we want to win as fast as possible, is that we have to really prioritize mulligans. And that's where experience comes down to everything on this deck. Because you can win on turn 2 with this list. But if you don't you know, your mulligans on what's good and what's not, you're not going to know that, hey, I can win here, or this line, I can take this line and win. All right, 8th place, we have him, Lobster Man, Dargo Thrasios. Basically, what we're trying to do with this deck is present a loop of sacrificing Dargo with Breach to deal damage with Goblin Bombardment. Sack a creature, Goblin Bombardment deals 1 damage to target creature or player. So we're going to use Breach. We're going to use LED to generate our mana. We also have Brain Freeze to help with the Breach line. So Breach, Brain Freeze, and, you know, obviously you can target your opponents because you're going to generate enough Storm and just mill them out. Or we can use Dargo and Goblin Bombardment to deal damage to everyone else, because whenever we sack a permanent, Dargo costs 2 less to cast for each permanent sacrifice this way, and 2 less to cast for each other artifact or creature you've sacrificed this turn. So the commander tax basically doesn't apply to Dargo, even though Dargo's 7 CMC. It doesn't matter, because all we do is sacrifice a bunch of stuff and deal damage to everyone. Thrasios is basically in here to dig and filter out some stuff, you know, look for stuff that we're going to do. Some typical stuff that we're going to see in, you know, Teamer List, Regavan, Tender Walls are ramp, Dockside's just good, Flesh Duplicate. Hey, you have a Dockside? I have a Dockside. Seems pretty good. Kinnon's just good. Phantasmal Image, copying again. Burgie, we're going to be slinging some spells, so we need that extra mana for Burgie. Recursion. So the other thing, too, is, like, Kitten's in here to do kitten stuff. Seedborn Muse. Your untap step, it's our untap step. The other big spice in here is Atali. So we can generate a loop of blinking stuff with Displacer Kitten by generating an infinite colorless mana and then generating infinite colored mana to then be able to go into a loop by casting Atali and bouncing, you know, our rocks again. So by doing that, we can exile everyone's library so they can't do anything. Finale, Life's Legacy. Hey, I've got my Dargo. I'm going to sacrifice my Dargo, and I'm going to draw 7 cards. Drawing 7 cards with 2 mana seems pretty good. Neoform, Eldritch Evolution, just pod lines. Jessica's Will's very good. Wheel's good. In here, we have a bunch of recursion, counter, lightning bolt, because, hey, we need our Dargo, and your Dranith Magistrate's in our way, so we're just going to bolt it so we can go off and win. Because, let's face it, I couldn't find Snap. Typical fun stuff in here as far as recursion, counter magic, a bunch of good stuff. Went over LED, Jewel Lotus, Basalt Monolith, because Kinnon, you run Kinnon, you should be running Basalt Monolith almost all the time. You know, so Birthing Pod's in here because we've got pod lines. Wandering's very good. Fish, you know, talked about that. Breach, Ristic. It's in Spanish. Zach, I still don't know what it means. Sacrifice una creature and sacrifice a creature. That's all I got. I don't know Spanish. Next, Song of Creation. So Song of Creation is, we're gonna cast this and we're gonna try to win from this point. Just because of the fact of you cast a spell, you draw 2 cards. We don't really care about the end step because we're going to win. If we whiff and go to end step, we basically lost anyway because we're going to combo off. 26 lands, you might think it's a little light. It might be right. The biggest thing is, you know, getting the LED lines out, protection spells, being able to get Dargo out, and start to abuse stuff. All right, 7th place, the Boogeyman, Blue Farm, T and K. There's too many different nicknames for this deck. It's good stuff. It's Blue Farm. It's mid-range. You know it. We're only doing 12 creatures in this list. You know, typical good stuff. Dockside, Grand Abolisher, Lothal, Bowmaster, Ranger Captain, some other good stuff. Savine's Reclamation is part of a breach line, so that's why it's in here. Reanimate's kind of the spice in here, as far as not typical. Grabbing, someone else's creature, grabbing my creature that got killed. So, or I wheeled away a Thassa because I needed to wheel so I can get my breach line going. I'm just gonna reanimate my Thassa back. Time for the fun stuff. Typical stuff that you're gonna see in here. Born Upon Wind, so we can win at instant speed. Brain Freeze, because we have breach lines. Rift, Final Fortune, so we can start our intuition, but don't have the resources to finish it. We're just gonna Final Fortune take next turn. We're gonna win. Hey, we're gonna snap your creature that's preventing us from doing anything fun. Tainted Pact, because Thoracle, ad nauseum. We're gonna dig as far as we can to grab our lines, because on our opponent's end step, we're gonna ad nause and then go to our turn and present the win. Ad nauseum's good. Artifacts. Notice we don't have One Ring. We don't need One Ring. We have One Ring. I want to copy your One Ring. Breach lines, typical stuff. Fish, Breach, Ristic, Smothering Tithe. Because people don't pay for the Smothering Tithe triggers, we're just gonna get all of the value. 27 lands. It's about typical for Blue Farm. Nothing too crazy. Otawara. All the good stuff. It's Blue Farm. It's what you'd expect. All right. In 6th place, we got Krark and Silas Renn. So this deck is basically Grixis Krark. Silas is just there for mana fixing. We really don't care about its ability. Krark is the star of the show here. We are going to sling some spells. We're going to try to copy them. And if we don't, they're going back to our hand. So, creatures, we really don't care much. 2-ball creatures, obviously Thoracle, Tavern Scoundrel. So whenever we win a coin flip, we create treasure tokens. Spellseeker, we're going to go find some stuff. Archmage, whenever you cast or copy an instant or short spell, draw a card. We're just going to refill our hand. Kitten for Kitten Lines, because Kitten's very good. Alright, some other stuff. Rite of Flame, Reanimate, Seal, Probe, Information. Alright, here's the Bread and Pudding. Bunch of different stuff in here. Tutor, Mental Misstep, Lightning Bolt, because why cast one Lightning Bolt when you can cast multiple, right? Gut Shot, it's basically a free spell. You're paying 2 life for a free spell. Flusterstorm, Entomb, Peek, because let's face it, we're going to need information to go off and win here, so we're going to have to peek at someone's hand. Strict Serenade, your One Ring, nope. Your Dockside, the Kenrith player, nope. Your Teferi, to run Teferi lines with Kitten, no. Card's good, it is the other Swan Song. Yeah, Impulse, Snap, Thoracle lines, Brain Freeze, because we got Breach lines. Flare Duplication. Turns out this card is very good. Downside is you gotta sacrifice a non-token red creature. Oh, guess what? Our useless Ragavan that can't attack anymore, or our Dockside that isn't doing anything anymore, or our Imperial Recruiter, like, we have resources. We're just gonna copy another spell. Turns out it's pretty good. Next, Breach Line, Artifact Ramp, Top, so we can manipulate what's coming up. One Ring, Talisman, Mystic Remora, Fish, Counterbalance, because Countertop, Power Balance, card's good. Breach Line, Ristic Study, 27 lands with 28 MDFC, but then you do, 28, 29, that's getting a little heavy there, where we're going to flood, where we just want to fling some spells, we want to copy some stuff, we want to go through the Brain Freeze lines, and Krark does really good at copying stuff. So your storm count's going to go through the roof. All right, 5th place of the Summer Classic, we have Atraxa the Grand Unifier. This is a food chain deck where we're going to use Eternal Scourge to generate a loop, create infinite mana. So we're going to eventually cast our commander so that we can draw our entire deck. We're going to cast Thassa's Oracle for the win. The protection that we have is Grand Abolisher, Granith Magistrate, Delighted Halfling, because let's face it, a turn 2 or turn 3 uncounterable Atraxa is pretty good. We're going to say no to you fetching and, tutoring for an answer. Kitten combo lines, Ranger Captains, another protection spell. Italian's just a draw engine. Typical stuff in here. Culling Ritual. All of your mana rocks are no more. Bunch of protection in here. We have Demonic Consultation, Tainted Pact, because let's face it, we have Thassa's Oracle. All the rocks in here. Carpet of Flowers I still think is very good. We have a bunch of blue decks running around right now. Fish, Food Chain, Ristic, Touch of the Spirit Realm. We don't really care about the first part of this, the spot removal. We more or less care about the channel, because someone's gonna try to answer, try to deal with Atraxa. All we're gonna do is channel this, blink Atraxa. We're gonna get another ETB off Atraxa, and their spell is gonna fizzle. It's a win-win for us. Smothering Tithe, let's face it. Are you really gonna pay 2 for every card you draw? No. We're just gonna get all of the treasure tokens. 28 lands in here. Some might say it's a little much. I think it's fine because let's face it, Atraxa, she's big and thick. Alright, we made it to the top 4 with Rograkh from Mr. Consistent himself. Turbo Shell, we want to win as fast as possible. This list pulled off a turn 2 win. It's good at doing it. We have Thassa's Oracle for the main win con. We have a bunch of storm cards in here, wheel effects, bunch of interaction in here. Born Upon a Win, because let's face it, if we can win at instant speed on our opponent's turn, seems pretty good. Player of Duplication, this has been the hot new card in the tournament. A bunch of people have had success with it, especially Rograkh list, because Rograkh is free. We have a almost free copy a spell. Who doesn't want to copy it? You have an ad nauseum. I have an ad nauseum. Seems kind of bunch of the free mana rocks in here that you'd normally see at Defense Grid. We have to win on our turn. We don't want our opponents to interact with us, so this just makes it that much more difficult. Notice we don't have a One Ring in here. We don't need it. You got Wish Cloud to go far to our win con. Breach Lines, Necro Dominance, because let's face it, it's the closest thing that we have to a second copy of Necropotence. It's just good. It's another Necropotence. 24 lands. That means mulligans are critical. Alright, coming in third place, we have Birdman himself, Derevi. I know it's not a typical list that you're going to see in a tournament, but it showed up and it did well. So with this list, we're trying to slow the game down, and we don't really care about all the slowdown effects because it doesn't apply to us. Fairy, because we're going to have Hit and Combo in here. Grand Abolisher, Dauntless, Fairy Mastermind, and Haven Mind Sensor doesn't get the respect that it does. Even if you have an Oppo agent out, Haven Mind Sensor doesn't care because you're only going to search the top 4 cards of that library instead. It doesn't get the respect. Yes, it dies to Bowmaster very easily, but you're only searching the top 4, it seems pretty good. Conqueror, surprisingly very good card. As far as, you know, having artifacts come into play untapped on your opponent's control. We get a 1/1 vampire with lifelink. This is a Delaney deck at its core. We have a bunch of creatures with power 2 or less. You know, Eternal Witness, Grand Abolisher, in Archon. You get the idea. Delaney is going to do work here for us. Toski is going to do work. Every time we deal combat damage, we're going to draw a card. Turns out, not a lot of flyers flying around in CDH right now, so that's why birds are a thing. Let's face it, your Orcish Bowmaster that got out of hand because someone wheeled and got, you know, 21 triggers on an Orcish Bowmaster. Not anymore. We're just going to blow it up. A bunch of different protection in here. Crop Rotation. It does one job very well. Gets this. He gets the Cradle. Alright, typical protection. Typical stuff in here, except for this. Chromatic Orrery. Trouble in Pairs, so we're not running Smothering Tithe, but Trouble in Pairs, you know, personal preference. Sylvan Library is very good. 27 lands. Might be the magic number in here because we want to hit our lands. We're more of a control deck. So we want to be able to interact with the board and playing all of our creatures. Therefore, everyone else can't do stuff. Alright, second place. We got Rograkh Thrasios. And I'm going to nickname this the Toolbox, and you'll understand why in a little bit. But we got combo lines for the win because we don't have Thassa's Oracle in here. Well, we got Baron. We got a couple different ways that we're gonna do that. We got Kinnan Basalt Monolith to dig into, put into Thrasios. We also have Dockside loops that we can do, hit and combo, Hullbreaker, and this mid range. You want to call it a Utopia? It's okay. It's kind of fun. Consecrated Sphinx, because turns out when your opponents draw a card or multiple cards, we could just get to draw cards too. That part's very good. Finale Devastation is more or less the main win con that we're gonna do from Baron. So generate infinite mana. We're gonna sink it into Baron. Bouncing all the creatures back to their opponent's hands. We're gonna cast Thrasios. We're gonna dig with Thrasios to find our finale. Then we have all this wonderful protection backup. We have protection for our combo. Candelabra. Turns out when you have Cradle, Candelabra's pretty good. Cloudstone, Cursed Mirror. You have a Dockside. I have a Dockside with haste. Typical ramp in here. And gates. Your Dranith Magistrate is now going to phase out. I need to bounce something. Your Dranith Magistrate. Alright, Otawara. Untap target legendary permanent. You know what we're going to do is we're going to keep drawing and wondering. So this is why I'm calling it the Toolbox. It does a lot of stuff. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Nadu taking home the guy's cradle. Claiming first place. You love it, you hate it. We talked about Nadu a little bit already. This is not the same list. There's some differences. We still have our enablers in here. Scoot Swarm. We talked about a little bit where, once we're creating token copies of Scoot Swarm, we need 3 consecutive landfall triggered abilities so that we can effectively not whiff. There is a small chance that we whiff, but one Scoot Swarm turns into 2, 2 turns to 4, 4 turns to 16. After that, we basically just win from there. So 3 is the magic number. You could say 4, but statistically, there's still a slim chance. Yes, 16, there still is a slim chance, but realistically, it's not going to happen, and we're just going to dig. We're going to keep going until we hit a Finale of Devastation, and we're just going to dump all the mana that we have, because, let's face it, all these lands come into play untapped. So we're going to dump all that mana into Finale of Devastation, overrun our opponent. Noxious Revival to get back some of our stuff that gets removed. A bunch of protection in here. The one thing that is different is Umbra Mantle from the previous list. It's another free equip. And the other thing too is if we have the mana, we can untap our Alchemist, our Skybreaker, so we can tap our creature again. It's just another triggered ability, another active enabler. Landfall. We still have our enablers from Landfall triggered ability. 29 lands. You might say it's a little much, but remember, this is a landfall deck, so we want all the fetch lands, and we want to be able to play all of the lands that we can, because it's a landfall deck. 29 might be the magic number. Congratulations on the top 4 and TJ with Nadu for taking home the guy's cradle. Remember, like and subscribe for more awesome videos like this.